Hello again at CC's Garage. Today we're going to start pulling the upper intake off to set up to put the new Edelbrock heads on and the Edelbrock ProFlow 4 intake system. I went this morning, had the O2 bung installed into the exhaust, letting the motor cool down. I'm getting ready to start taking it apart. I've already drained the radiator fluid out. Already made one modification to the intake system for the ProFlow, and I'll explain that when we get there later. But we'll give you a quick shot of the engine here, and I'll come back as I get a little bit more done. As you can see, just an old dirty engine. I'll be starting to, pull intake, the distributor, all that good stuff off, and then go from there. And I'll bring you back as I get through to some of the stuff done and give you little pointers as I go. Okay, here we go. As you can see, I've already pulled the breather off. Went and gathered my tools up. Little 1/4" socket set. A couple of different 3/8 drive ratchets. Phillips screwdriver. Old Folgers coffee can to put my bolts in. And a Matco socket set. Get this opened up. Now I'll tell you the Matco socket set, the Matco ratchet. Let's see. Matco socket set I got out of a pawn shop at a good deal. This snap-on ratchet I got out of a pawn shop at a good deal. This Matco come in a lot of tools I bought when a heavy equipment mechanic got out of the job. Same thing with the screwdriver. And then this here is just a Craftsman 1/4" set that I've had since I was 18 years old. So that'd be a little over 35 years now. Actually 37 years. So some Craftsman stuff is good, especially the old stuff. It's all in how you treat it. I don't go out and buy the brand name stuff all the time because I don't do this for a living. Everybody has their preferences. Buy what you can afford, but don't buy the cheapest you can get just because it's cheap. Buy something that's got a decent quality to it. I've even got Pittsburgh stuff. So we're going to set you up here and get started pulling this distributor and plug wires and the some of the front end accessories off that I've got to pull off to get the heads off. I'm trying to let the motor cool down. It's still a little warm from where I drove it this morning. So I'm going to get you set up and we'll get started taking it apart. Now we're going to undo the fuel line. Find something to put in the hose and tighten the clamp back down. That way you don't have fuel leaking everywhere while you're working on it. This truck, I don't know if the gas tank's not vented, or if it is, the cap is messed up. So it'll build pressure in the tank and push it out. That's why the filter is empty right now. In this heat down in South Carolina, it's bad for just sitting and the heat in the air to vaporize the fuel. Now the reason I want to move away from carbureted to fuel injection is just to do away with some of the inconsistencies of starting and running. Okay, I did have to add some wrenches that I forgot to get when I first started this. I had to add a 1/2 inch to take the distributor out, and then a 3/4 and a 5/8 to undo this line going into the carburetor. As you undo this, you will end up with some fuel leakage. One thing I forgot to mention, as you loosen the rocker shaft, you want to slowly do it at each one in an order, let the pressure off slowly, that way you don't warp the rocker shaft. Now that I've got it where I can turn it all by hand, I'm going to switch out to my 1/4 inch drive and use my little battery power ratchet. It just speeds things up. Now reach over here. And we have the rocker shaft off. Now I'm going to take the box, pull each one of the push rods out, and put them in their corresponding hole down the box. And it's been hours since I run this motor, and it's still, the parts are still warm. Okay. Okay. I've got all the intake bolts out. Both headers are undone. All I like is the 10 bolts holding the head on and just popping the intake up. This hose clamp is already undone. I'm not going to take them all off right now. Try to get a look at the sky, but it's got dark here. It looks like it's going to rain, so I'll put my tools up and I'm going to call it a day. And I'll get back on this in the next day, and of course it'll be just a little bit for you. Well, it stopped raining, so I come on back out and worked on it. As you can see, I've pulled both heads off, intake. I went ahead and set this up and turned the crank till I got the piston up to the highest point, so I know I'm on top dead center here. While I was at it, I come off of this surface here and went to here, and I'm right at 110 thousandths down in the hole, which is better than a lot of these engines are like 125 down in the hole. I've got a plan to turn this into a 390. It's 360 right now. Standard bore. I checked to add a little taper in it, but until I can get to the point to rebuild a motor, it'll be okay. Now I noticed on the heads, got them back here on the back of the truck, on one of the cylinder, or one of the exhaust valves, when I got it out, let's see if we can see in here. Okay. Well, can't see down in the hole, but there's oil on the valve stem, so the valve stem seal on that one was leaking. You can look here at the bottom of the heads. All the intakes are forward valves. This exhaust valve's already been changed once. These heads are just like my set I was going to redo. They don't have hardened seats. So there's part of the problem I was having with the running. This valve here also has some liquid going down the exhaust valve on it. And this last one has a lot of carbon buildup on it. Valves, all intakes are forward, and all exhaust valves on this head match. There was a lot of carbon buildup around this edge on all the around the intake or the head gaskets. You can see some of it flaking off right here. This was the exhaust side or the driver's side, and this one was the passenger side. So that would have made this number 1 cylinder here. And that is the one that has the carbon buildup on it. Today we're back on the 71 F350, but getting ready to do the cleanup on the block, put the new cylinder heads on, and then do the fuel injection intake and all. This will be the second part of the video. I'm going to do the heads in the second part, and then in the third part I'm going to install the intake, and possibly be another part after that, getting the fuel lines hooked up and the surge tank. As you can see, we're down and they're pretty clean, but you still want them perfectly clean to get a better seal on the head on both sides. And then of course I'll be taking off this RTV that you use to seal the front and the back of the intake up with. And I'm just going to start cleaning that up. I'll bring you back when I get a little bit done. Okay, that was just a little bit of me scraping the heads and cleaning them up. If you look right here, see how it's discolored different in this area? It almost makes me wonder if I might have had a little bit of a leak around the head gasket. But if you get to looking in a couple areas, it's like that. So maybe not. I'm going to take a flat board and put me some real light grit sandpaper and just run down across all this to make sure it's cleaned up good. As you can see, I've already run down this side. There was a little bit more gasket stuck on it. I've got the RTV cleaned off here and back here, which I'll need to do a little bit more. The problem with the very back is it's hard to reach without climbing up in the engine bay. And at the moment, I'm standing on a platform to get me up higher. So I want to cut this off for now, and I'll come back when I get it cleaned up better. Okay, I went ahead, I grabbed me a piece of 600 grit sandpaper, just a little piece of plywood to hold on it, and I sprayed PB Blaster down the surface. I like PB Blaster, I've used it for years, not sponsored. As you can see, it does a pretty good job of straightening the head up. And you can tell the difference when you come over and look at this one. You'll see the blue imprint from the Velcro head gasket that was on here. So, just remember when you get done sanding it and cleaning it, you've got to clean the block real good. I mean, I'm going to have to get the cleaning the lifter valley and all that. I'll pull out the vacuum pump. Or not a vacuum pump, but a shop vac, and vacuum down in there and down in the cylinders. And I'm going to use some good old brake parts cleaner when I get ready to reassemble it. But you don't want to use anything too gritty on this surface. You want to keep it as smooth as you can. It you know, needs a little bit of bite for help the head gasket seal, unless you're doing a multi-layered metal gasket. Then it's got to be super slick to seal better. You can tell there's some carbon buildup. This motor definitely is going to need to be gone through and rebuilt down the road, but right now I'm just getting it going, and hopefully over the winter months I'll be able to get it out, get it to machine shop, and turn it into a 390 instead of this 360. Okay, I've got the tap. I've already started this one down. It's a high 13 tap for these bolts. I could use a power tool to run them down in and back it back out. This tap's also a bottoming tap. But the reason I'm going ratchet is you can get a feel, and when you can tell easier when you get to the bottom of the hole, or if it's binding or something's going wrong. As you see, we're at the bottom of the hole there. Another reason you want to clean these threads out is if there's any trash in the bottom, when you go to tighten up the head bolts, that trash can get in there on the bottom and mess up your torque reading. It'll cause your bolts to bottom out before they should if there's enough trash in them. And I am sitting in the hood of under the hood of the truck right now to reach these back holes. And I don't know if you can see a little bit of dirt in the flutes, like right there. And this one's not bad. I've had some of the ones in the front have had more in them, especially the lower ones. But each time I get through running the tap back out, I clean it and then start over again. Okay, this time around, you should be able to see a little bit better at all the junk in the flutes that I got out of the hole. That's what you're wanting out, and also to straighten up any threads that might have a burr or whatever. I've got 2 more holes to do, and then we'll get on to the next part of it. Okay, went ahead, took air and blew back out each one of these bolt holes, or head bolt stud hole, or head bolt holes, to get all the trash cleaned out of them. I want to rotate the motor over to clean more trash out of the cylinders before I put the heads on. Well, in the first video, I come up and I set this cylinder at top dead center, 0. I went in, might be hard to see, cleaned the crank up down here. And there's where my finger is where 0 is right now. Let's see if I can get a better look at this. Get that better out of the way. Okay, that's where the 0 is now. Somebody has cut the pointer. You can see there's a little bit of a gap between there and there. So I went in with the scribe and just marked a 0 there. This will come important when I go to set up the fuel injection. Put the distributor in. You set the timing at 12 degrees for the Edelbrock ProFlow system. And then the computer does all the adjusting from there. So it's kind of hard to see what's on the balancer, but I have a remedy for that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it off, spin the motor over, and get these cylinders cleaned out. And then I'll get everything set back up where it needs to be. Okay, I turned it around in order to get a better look at it. I don't know if the numbers will show up, but like I said, right there is the 0. There's where the timing pointer is. So just a little bit off. This is where the previous owner, or the owner before him, had it marked. This is showing 10 degrees before top dead center as this motor turns clockwise. So anything on this side of the 0 is going to be before top dead center. Anything on this side of the 0 is going to be after top dead center. Well, these marks are hard to see, and I want it accurate because the fuel injection depends on the timing being set right. So, Summit Racing has a timing tape sheet. You have to know the size of your the outside diameter of your damper, which this one is 7 inches. Then you come in with the tape and you look at the sizes. So this one's a 7/8, so I will be using this where my thumb's at. You clean the dampener up before you put it on there, and I will set the 0 at the line that I scribed in there already. Now once I do this, since I don't have the heads on, I can go back and check and make sure I'm right. But you definitely have to clean it good or this tape won't stay stuck. Okay, here it is applied to the balancer. You can already tell just in the video picture alone how much easier it's going to be to read this. So now I'm going to get back up here and turn it back up to 0 and make sure my number 1 piston is still at 0. Okay, I set my dial indicator up again. Brought the balancer around, and I've got it set on 0 right now, and I'm on right at 0 on the crank. So what we'll do is we're going to watch the needle. The sweep is going up is this way, going down is this way. So let's see how close I am with the 0. Whoop, and there goes the ratchet falling off. Oh, I was real close. Switch this back around. And we'll bring it back up. Okay, yeah, that is so close. It's within less than a half a degree. So we'll go with that. Now I can start putting the heads back on. I wipe down this deck surface again. Before I put the head gaskets on and start setting the heads on, I'm going to wait until after I do that before I clean up the lifter valley. And I'm not as worried about putting anything in the lifter valley because I'm going to be changing the oil as soon as I'm done. I will probably I've got some oil in here that I down to like a last jug of synthetic. I will pour on here to help wash everything. After I clean it up, I pour that oil in here to wash it all down in the bottom a little bit better, and then change the oil. Okay, I got the head gaskets wiped down. I wiped the cylinder bores one more time. Went ahead and pulled out the head gaskets. I'm going to get them opened up here. these look an awful lot like a set of Felpros, even though it says Edelbrock, and right there it does say, right here it does say Felpro on these. So a lot of these manufacturers use other people's items and sell them as theirs. The reason I went with this set is they've got a 39 thousandths compression thickness, which means when it's squeezed, you bolt the head down, it's tight, this will only be 39 thousandths thick. With this motor, it definitely makes a difference, because when you add up this 39 thousandths, the pistons being down in the bore 110 thousandths, a 72cc combustion chamber, and probably a positive 7 thousandths in the valve reliefs, this motor is going to have less than 8-to-1 compression. Well, with less than 8-to-1, it's not optimum. You really want more, over 9, 9.5 to 1. If you're using cast iron heads, you want to keep it in that range, 9, 9.5 to 1. With aluminum heads, you can fudge. They dissipate heat better to keep from cutting down on detonation, and you can run them up to around 10.5 to 1. At least that's what I'm got my set up in my 93 Mustang with the Edelbrock heads and the ProFlow fuel injection setup. Now it's a lot smaller motor, it's only 331. It's got a decent cam in it. This one's going to have a stock cam. But when I do rebuild the motor, I'm planning on trying to get this up to a 0 deck height, which means the piston will be flush. See how my finger catches? It means the piston, I'll just be able to slide like it is right here, or pretty close. So the higher up I can get it, the better compression I'll get. If I just do that, get this up to a 0 deck height, I'll be closer to 10-to-1 compression. By changing the stroke, even going from this 3.5 stroke to a 3.78 that the 390 has, will help increase my compression. And what that is just how much you squeeze your fuel air mixture in this combustion chamber. The better you squeeze it, the more power you're going to make. But on pump gas, you want to watch how much you do squeeze, because you can get into detonation, which can cause you a lot more problems. Okay, got the head gasket out. When you go to put these on, there is a certain way they go. If you look, I'm not sure you can read it, but there it says the front. So when you go to put it on here, you want to turn to where the front of the head gasket is here and the back of it's there. What this does is it forces the coolant in this head. You see how this end's closed off with the head gasket compared, and then the back's open. What that does is it forces the coolant to flow in back there and all the way through the head to keep the head cooler. If it was here, it would just go straight through the head and right back out through the water pump, so the back of the head wouldn't get cooled like it needs to, and then you're asking for warpage, detonation, just all kinds of other issues.